I think that as experts, we know so much about our field. We know so much about our work that for us, it's obvious. It's all obvious. It's obvious how it works. It's obvious why it's valuable. And it's even obvious for us how to buy it. But for people outside who seek our expertise, it's not obvious at all in most cases. Sure, I would say for certified professionals, regulated experts like doctors or lawyers or insurance, the insurance professions or some kinds of engineers, some types of engineers. Um, their profession is regulated all the way through how you sell it. You can't advertise in specific ways. So the process to access those types of expertise is well known, is well documented, is actually standardized, and uh, it's subject to certifications and audits and so on. But for independent experts, we get to pick the sales process that we deem is effective. And I've observed throughout the year that although we are experts at delivering our expertise, we are not always experts at selling it. There's kind of a gap. There is a void in our industry. And if you look around how independent experts sell their services, you see all sorts of practices, all sorts of types of advice, all sorts of steps, pricing methods, and so on. It's a little bit like the Far West. It's a bit of a jungle, and there is more advice on that topic every year. So why do I decide to also add to maybe to the noise? Because I just want to share a simple observation, um, from a perspective of common sense, maybe. But the one key advice I would give you is to invest in being an expert, but in being an expert at selling your services, because it's not going to be your customers, your clients' role to do that. So when they come knocking at your door, they're going to have to tell them how they get access to your expertise. What are the steps for them to buy it? And very often, like I said, it's a little blurry, it's a little fuzzy. It's just no more than a series of complex conversations with people. And maybe, you've heard you have to ask a lot of questions, you have to build a relationship. All of that to me is what I used to hear when I started in consulting. And there was a very fuzzy body of advice. So what I noticed that is really, really essential to do if you want to craft your own narrative as an expert, your own successful narrative as an expert, is to invest in defining what your sales process as an expert is going to look like and becoming really, really expert at understanding it from your point of view so that you can guide your ideal clients to get your expertise. It is really your responsibility. I think it's your responsibility to do so because it is your duty to not waste your potential clients' time. It's also your responsibility to not waste your time and to really give as soon as possible a sense of what people can expect for what budget, in what time frame, and at what speed. I think your clients just have, it's just a simple common sense thing. They have the right to know how they're getting your expertise and what they're going to get when they get your expertise. So don't fall into the trap and make sure that you have a very specific way to do so. How do you build that expertise? Well, it's through a lot of trial and errors. It's through observations. It's through repeated attempts to sell your expertise. So you have to go look for those clients interested in buying from you and really accumulate hundreds, maybe thousands of hours on sales calls so that you develop this intuitive sense. And more importantly, underlying this, it's the goal. The goal that you should have is to build a very clear process. So I'm going to give you some maybe high-level principles to build that process. The first one is that a lot of the expertise get best sold when you're not in the room. It's called pre-framing the narrative. It's what, and it happens through what people read from you outside of your practice. Whatever you post on social media these days, the newsletter that you have, the books that you wrote, the articles that you published, the talks that you gave, all of that pre-frames in people's mind the narrative that you're building with your business. So that's the first and the first and probably the most critical step. That's what experts do. Experts are sought after for their knowledge and experience, and you have to be able to demonstrate it before people even buy it. It's almost like, I tend to say this, and I think I have said this before on one of these videos. It's almost like the freemium version of the expert practice, right? You're giving a taste and a free sample of your knowledge so that people, get trust, so that you build trust, you build authority as well. And so that later on, people are more interested in buying it for a premium this time. So the first step is that pre-framing phase where you invest in demonstrating through publishing and all the list of methods I just gave you. The second step is really important. It's how do you vet your clients? And I know for sure this time that I have mentioned that in many other videos. So look for my other videos, how critical vetting your clients is. And you're responsible for this because your clients don't know if they're a good fit for your service. It is your responsibility. It's your role to tell them, here are typically the criteria that you want to have in mind, that you want to have if you want to be most successful with my expertise. And you have to help your clients realize if they meet those criteria and so on. Maybe in those criteria, maybe there is a budget component. Like, what is the minimum level of engagement? What is the minimum amount of money that I need to have as your potential client in my pockets, on my budget, to even consider working with you? Maybe you have different offerings, different offers, high price point, low price point. Maybe you do custom engagements and so on. But from the get-go, the earlier you address this, the less you will waste everybody's time, and the better you're going to vet if we are a good fit. So I just mentioned budget, but that's only one out of so many other criteria. It could be values, it could be size of companies, it could be so many demographics. I see a lot of experts now focusing on things for women or for men, for people in certain geographical locations, specific time in their journey, and so on. So vetting and qualifying, it's critical to your sales process as an expert. Then comes the phase that consists of, now, okay, we see that you're potentially a client. So now can I help you pick? Can you help you pick the best type of service that you could buy from me? And that implies having some options, right? If you are an expert, you better than anybody else, you should know how to pick your services. So don't let your client ask or tell you what they need, or if they don't need, actually, if they don't know what they need to fix their problem, that's good news. But don't let them dictate which product they should pick. You are here and you have a say, and most of the time, they're going to look for guidance for you to facilitate that choice, to facilitate that process. I remember many years ago, as as an introductionary job to, after I immigrated to the United States, I used to work in a luxury store, leather goods store, and we were selling men and women's products, mostly women's products, so handbags. And I was one of the only men salespeople in that store, and I had a lot of men coming through the door right before their spouse or partner's birthday and looking for a product, and they had no clue what to pick. Right? They had no clue what to pick. So they were looking for my expertise, my deep knowledge, my knowledge of the products. And it was my role, my responsibility to give them some options and some trade-offs. Maybe one product is more expensive, but has more of the features that they were, their spouse was looking for, or vice versa, and so on. So then comes that phase of mitigating and facilitating that choice in the process. And of course, that implies also that you should be able to diagnose very quickly what is it that they're looking for. Through a few questions, being able to understand what is the goal, what is the purpose at stake, what are they trying to achieve beyond just the mere transaction of getting your knowledge, getting your help. And finally, after that, well, you get to start, maybe hopefully you get to start with this new client, and start small. Start small because it's very tempting to want to sell large projects, large engagements, 6 figures, sometimes 7 figures. And if the type of work, if the type of agency or organization that you represent justifies it, then that's fine. But if you feel like you're going to start lower than this, even sometimes way lower than this, just 4 figures or 3 figures, just it doesn't really matter. But pick and help your clients pick for you and your clients what feels right. Because in our professions, we do very high touch work where the relationship really matters a lot, where you ought to wonder, hey, am I going to enjoy, and am I going to deliver that service in a sustainable way if I work with that type of client, that profile of client, that exact person here? Maybe I'm not sure. Maybe there's a lot of blind spots here. There's a lot of unknowns. And I want to start with a smaller phase of work that is going to help us get started sooner than later, and see how we might be a fit or not, and then course correct. So here too comes the concept of agility that is so prominent to the MetaHelm approach here. There it is, MetaHelm philosophy, and the strategic narrative methodology is really agility in that sales process, through defining what your sales process is and through guiding people through your sales process once you have defined it. So I hope this helps. Become an expert at what you do, and very importantly, become an expert at selling what you do. All right, I hope that this helps. And as always, I welcome your comments and questions on this very, very fascinating topic of sales in expert businesses. Thank you.